Welcome to Inclusive Cyber, your front row seat to understand how a diverse mix of voices is not just necessary, but essential to protect our most sensitive computer networks and personal data. I'm your host, Danny Magallanes, and through my podcast, we shine the spotlight on the heroes and trailblazers from every corner of society who are redefining the diversity, equity, and inclusion frontier. Every episode is a step towards a cyber community that's as varied as it is united, where everyone has the keys to unlock their potential and the power to protect our digital world. Join us on this journey where every listen, every share, every dialogue inches us closer to this new reality. Elaisa, welcome to Inclusive Cyber. ¿Cómo estamos? How are you today?
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, Danny. Doing well. I'm fantastic. I'm really excited about the conversations we are going to have. And yeah, just being happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, definitely. I know we've been talking for several months now, and I hate to say this, it might be close to a year, at least last summer. It was a mentorship relationship through Tribaja, and we'll dive deep into what that organization does. But before we get started with that, tell the audience who Elaisa is.
A little bit about me. I grew up in South America. I moved to the Caribbean, spent over a decade there. That's where I learned English. And then I finally moved to the United States to stay for good with my family. So I've been here pretty much about 10 years now. My professional background, I have had the opportunity to work for nonprofit organizations, for the government outside of the US, for the Argentinian government, for Mexican government, and also for the government of Panama. And I did that before coming to the United States. When I came here, I wanted to do something that I knew I was passionate about. Many years ago, I started my career thinking about technology, and I ended up learning everything I need to know to create websites. And so when I came to the United States, I wanted to work on something that I was passionate about, and I was inclined with technologies. I ended up working in the marketing and communications. And that's when I understood the need to improve my skills and my capabilities in the communications area. And I got my BA and my master's in communication studies from San Francisco State University. And after that, I've been able to work in that area as organizational change management and communications manager. I have had the opportunity to work for big corporations, tech corporations, and also in the pharmaceutical sector. And until right now, which I am pivoting more into entrepreneur and small business management.
I have a lot of questions in regards to how you got into cybersecurity. I'm assuming, or maybe not cybersecurity, just in IT in general, based on your marketing and communications background. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, it is. It is. I have that technological side of me that has always been, part of everything I do. I want to make sure that I'm always thinking about how I'm improving myself in the technological aspect. I wanted to get into cybersecurity, number one, because I think it's the biggest risk that as consumers and citizens we are facing right now. I was reading a lot of the narrative that cybersecurity is in need of, diverse candidates, and we need to bring this different perspective. And there's a lot of chances of employment in the cybersecurity sphere. So I think that was the first thing that got me attracted to cybersecurity. Understanding, of course, the importance of cybersecurity. Back in 2020 or 2021, I joined the WISIS, the Women in Cybersecurity. And I started just, getting to know more about what it is, cybersecurity. Can I even think of getting into cybersecurity? Is that something that I can do? And I spent approximately the past 3 years just getting to know more about cybersecurity, doing cybersecurity training in the background, not necessarily at the level of university, but like courses that I took. That's how my interest in cybersecurity.
And I love that because the way I view that is a growth mindset, right? You acknowledge the importance of cybersecurity and also that a lot of companies are in need of cybersecurity. That's keen observation to make to say, hey, maybe I should start learning a little bit more about
Yeah.
that.
And I also wanted to add the fact that when you have been working for many years as a professional in different industry, different sectors, you understand what is risk, what are the risks that companies are facing. And I understood that cybersecurity is a major risk for corporations. I have a lot of background in analyzing data and just understanding how things, especially with my major in communication, there is a lot of background that comes to understanding human behavior and how cybersecurity affects them in different ways, right? So that's where my I saw an alignment of my current capabilities and how I wanted to pursue probably a cybersecurity career. But I knew that I have a disadvantage because I don't actually have like a really technical background outside of the informal education that I have gotten in tech, right?
A lot of great points that you made there, Liza. But the first one or the last one that you just mentioned, I really want to address. I think cybersecurity professionals, we do a disservice because we're only focusing on the technology skill sets. You mentioned that you have a lot of skill sets from your previous career, change management, communication. Communication in any profession is key, and probably more so in cybersecurity because you're trying to communicate technical things to executives that might not have that technical acumen. So you need to understand and break that down. And I would say, communication professionals have that skill set. Technology personnel, at least the ones that I've been exposed to, more often than not, they don't have those communication skills to inform the board of directors or the executive about what you also said, risk. So there's a lot of parallels that we as an industry, we don't do a good job of. So a lot of great points. I want to, I guess, touch upon how we initially met. So we met through Tribaja. Can you describe and just give a little background of Tribaja and what made you go with them versus another nonprofit?
I think it was the way that Tribaja has kind of positioned themselves in the market as inclusive. They seeking for candidates that meet the criteria for diversifying the workplace in tech. I've been following them for a while and I found out about this and I wanted to get that extra push on how to make sure that I was prepared in terms of how can I actually enter the cybersecurity world. I am an outsider. I don't know where to go. I don't know things that I should be doing. So when I joined Tribaja and they asked me, what kind of mentors are you interested in learning from? I want to connect with someone that has a cybersecurity background because this is where I'm thinking that I'm gonna move with in terms of my career in the future. This is how I ended up in Tribaja, and that this is how I ended up being your mentee. And I was super glad to meet you at that time. And there's so many opportunities that are, out there in terms of cybersecurity. How can I get in? You are an insider. What will you recommend somebody like me if I wanted to get into the cybersecurity space?
Yeah, I've been following Tribaja for quite some time. I want to say the CEO is Shannon Morales. And yeah, just doing amazing work with that organization. And yeah, I think there was a opportunity. Hey, do you want to be a mentor for either students that are graduating or transitioning professionals? I always want to give back because the way I started, I was a gatekeeper. people would come to me and say, hey, I want to be in cyber, I would ask the typical questions. What certifications do you have? Do you have a computer science degree, an electrical engineering degree? There's a lot of facets, right? It's not only the technical skills, but there's a lot of communication aspect, change management, and critical thinking. All the things that you mentioned that you're super analytical, there's jobs for that in cybersecurity. One other side note, the way I look at mentorship relationship, I don't view it as hierarchy. The mentor is higher than the mentee. I view it as a level playing field because we can both learn from each other. I know we had numerous conversations. I want to say maybe monthly or bi-monthly. Then you said maybe cyber's not for me. And I'm like, no, we need different voices, different perspective, different backgrounds in cyber. Because right now, one can easily argue cybersecurity is not winning. We are not defending our personal data because all of these companies are sucking up our data and we think they're protecting us, but at the end of the day, they're not. The United Healthcare ransomware event, that is, I don't know if you just recently heard about that, but it is a very debilitating cybersecurity attack on this organization, healthcare. So, shifting a little bit to why you said, well, maybe cybersecurity, what was your mindset?
I was in a very strategic moment in my life when I was seriously considering what is it that I'm going to do next. I also have a background in management and organization. I have a master's in business management. And I wanted to, understanding risk and what an organization is doing, not only, for example, not only how they're communicating, but how are they preparing the infrastructure to actually mitigate the different risks, and including cybersecurity. I always saw there's this alignment on the critical importance abilities that I have in terms of managing a business. I wanted to believe that I can enter this new world, the cybersecurity world. And I love technology. So it was like, oh yeah, this is a great combination, right? At the same time, reviewing job descriptions. What do they need? What are they looking for? What do I actually have? I also teach at San Francisco State. I'm a faculty lecturer and I teach business strategy, strategic management. And one of the tools that I ask my students to manage and get a hang of is the SWOT analysis. I even ask them to do that SWOT analysis on themselves. When I did that, I wanted to really know, in terms of cybersecurity, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my opportunities here? And what are the threats? And when I did that to my own self at that moment in time, I understood that the threats and the weaknesses were more outweighing, is how you say that. It was heavier than my strengths and my opportunities in cybersecurity. I wanted to really get into the cybersecurity world, but then again, it was more about, okay, so you don't have this, you don't have that. And only to get an interview, you need X, Y, and Z. And at my level, as I said, I have two master's degrees. I have been working for more than 15 years. So I'm not an entry level professional, right? So for me, it was like,
No.
if I really wanted to do this, can I afford to pay the penalty for not having the technical background and start from scratch? And I did the math and it wasn't worth it. Honestly, just the entry into the cybersecurity space will mean for me a cut in salary of about $60,000. So I was like,
Wow.
this is not something that I actually can afford to do. Not that I don't want to do, but I cannot afford to do at this moment. And this is why I ended up changing my plan and going into a different world, the entrepreneur.
Yeah. I really love that analysis, right? You have all these amazing skill sets. And I'm hearing from a lot of transitioning professionals that, very similar to what you're saying, that they don't have the technical capability. But again, job descriptions are garbage. I've seen the job descriptions and it's just a regurgitation of what they've been doing, and nobody's really looking at the job description. So that's problem number one. And then two, understanding that, well, I'm going to have to take a entry level position, and we're almost shooting ourselves in the foot because it shouldn't be that way. You have amazing skill sets along with any other transitioning professional. They've been leaders, and technology and the technical skills can easily be learned, right? As long as you have las ganas, that the desire to learn, there's going to be some people that we meet through our lives that I don't want to learn. It's about understanding your holistic situation and whether you have a family. And at the end of the day, financially, we have bills to pay, we have responsibilities. And I just really wanted to make a comment that I think that's a good risk analysis that you did. The numbers don't match, and I can't do that. I really like that perspective. So
Before
entrepreneurship.
we go into entrepreneur, I wanted to also tell you one
Sure.
of the risks that I see a lot of the time. And I
Mhm.
think I fit perfectly the statistic of a person that if I don't meet all the qualification, I'm just not going to apply. And that I know is something that is mostly us women who do those things. But this is just the way I am. If I read the qualification of the job description and I'm like, I don't have that, I don't have that, no, I don't know, I'm not even going to bother applying. So I think in a way, I also was very critical of my qualifications. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I mean, I'm competing with a lot of different people who actually have the background. I think that was one of the ways that I took myself out of the playing field.
Thank you for that insight, because a lot of women, and I think there was a Harvard Business Review or Harvard University study on that women view the job descriptions as a
Yeah.
checkbox, right? If there's 10 key traits that you need for this particular job. If all 10 are not checked, I'm not going
Mhm.
to apply. While males just look at this. If it's 30%, well, I'm
Yeah.
applying, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is how we have been socialized to do that. And
Yeah.
this, like you said, we need to change that also. We need to be able to tell women that you have a chance. Don't remove yourself. Let them say that you don't have what it takes, but don't do that to yourself. And I think that's an important message that we should start telling more, especially younger generation, that they don't have
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, that's a powerful message that we need to change the culture. And yeah, just a side note, I think I read this somewhere either on LinkedIn or that when you're hiring for a job, you're not hiring for that current position, you're hiring for their potential.
Yeah.
I would love to find the next Bill Gates when I'm reviewing job descriptions or job roles or interviews. It's not only about that particular job, but it's like, what else can they expand and grow and continue to learn and have that
Yeah,
curiosity,
but I
right?
think
Oh,
one important thing will be thinking about our dynamics in the workplace and position of power. A company is thinking about their potential employee or the potential that employee will eventually become, but the person that is applying is not seeing that because that has not been communicated. You didn't say that you want someone to become X, Y, and Z. You said you wanted that, and I'm not there yet as a female, a woman, excluding myself because I understand that I'm not what you
mm,
need. And I'm not what you need maybe right now, but I have the potential to become that. But it's not being
right.
communicated anywhere else.
Yeah.
Applicants are just seeing what you're telling me that you need. So I think that is important for whoever is taking on that role of writing those job descriptions to ensure that you do that you place, okay, this is what is actually needed and everything else is nice to have, because at the end I think that distinction will help a lot of people get out
Mhm.
of that position where I don't actually have that, I am not that person yet.
That's a fair point. It's just that effective communication,
Hmm.
right? Whether it is for that role or, hey, we want somebody to grow and learn the business and become a leader in
Yeah,
this.
so it's all about how they saying and how they communicating that, and it's important to be that inclusive when they write in those job descriptions.
Valid points there. Let's talk about entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
So the mindset, because I'm sure a lot, and I just want to set the stage on where we're at from an economic standpoint. And personally, what I've heard, a lot of people are being laid off. A lot of people are not finding jobs, and a lot of people are going into the entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
So, what was your mindset? You understood from a critical risk analysis that, okay, going into cyber entry level, it's not going to work for me. What made you take that leap to say, ooh,
Will
entrepreneurship
work.
is the right?
Even crazier,
What
right?
was
So I will tell you my thought processes when I was going through that moment. I think that honestly, because of the economic situation that we are right now, every single job is more risky than becoming an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day you don't have any guarantees on anything. In terms of how I was seeing this and how I decided this is what I want to do, I won't tell you it was just one moment in time that is like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. And I think it was a recopilation of many different things that happened in my life. It's been past experiences like working in corporate America with the amount of discrimination, especially for Latino women who have an accent. There is a lot of different things happening. Just passing that interviewing process that is so lengthy, and that is 6 round interviews, so you can decide if I'm worth it or not. In terms of all of these different things that were happening, I wanted to make sure that I was doing something that I love, but also
Mhm.
moving away from having to try to get a space at somebody else's table. There is a saying out there, if they don't give you a space on the table, then build your own table. So for me, it was a shift in mindset. It was like, okay, you know what? I don't have to beg someone to give me an opportunity when there's so much that needs to be done, and I'm being constrained by their expectations, the boxes that they put me in, and I don't want to do this anymore. I had this amazing idea in where whatever job I took was supposed to be something that was purposeful, that was impactful. And again, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into cybersecurity, because I know how impactful and how important it was. At the same time, I was my master's, my business management master was sustainability. So I understood that regardless of everything that is happening, I think that the biggest challenge that we have as a human species is climate change, is making sure that we are preparing to leave our newer generation a world where they can actually live. And that was one of my drives to get into entrepreneur. I wanted to do something that was in alignment with my values, with my passions, something that I will do even if I'm not getting paid for. So I can do this. This makes me happy. This gives me purpose. This wakes me up at night in thinking about how I can contribute to this challenge. And that's how my company came about. It was, the name of the company is Impact Driven Business, helping business, especially small business, transition into a more greener economy, preparing their organizations to be more sustainable, thinking about ways in which they can do well, in thinking about how the way they're running their operations are impacting communities and are impacting future generations and are impacting the world. So yeah, so that's how I ended up pivoting into entrepreneur. It wasn't, I wouldn't say right now this is not necessarily just like a strategic move because of the pressure. I will say this was more like a calling, because it's something that I have to do. For me, is that you can know unknown what you know. So the fact that my eyes were open on how important working towards a greener economy, working to make the world more sustainable for future generation, I cannot run away from that responsibility. And this is where I want to be. This is what I want to work with. And this is the kind of projects that I want to take on. And this is how I ended up being here.
Very empowering message, Eliza, especially how you started that off, that if you don't get invited to eat at the table, just create your own table. So I really love that. You also said previously that we talked about it's easier to start a company than find a
Yeah,
job
at,
in this.
at the stage we are, I don't think the system is very friendly, user friendly with applicants, and the amount of competitions you have out there. I think there is more empowerment when you get out of that race and you pivot into something that you still have to do, that you think you are capable of doing. Of course, you have to think about your capabilities. It's not just a dream. I actually prepared for this. I got the qualifications that I needed. I got the training that I needed, and I have been empowered to do something with this knowledge. If a company is paying me to be there, it's because I'm worth it. So if I can do it for somebody, I can do it for myself. And that's my mindset on how I ended up where I am right now.
I love that message because, again, it comes down to that empowerment based on your
Yeah.
abilities. And instead of doing it for company X, Y, and Z, I'm going to do it for my own company. And now I can hire, I can be more sympathetic when it comes to hiring. And some of the pushback would be obviously you're going to be more sympathetic because now you're going to be focused on the potential employee that you're hiring. And because you have a lot of time, big corporations, it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So everything you said, just amazing, really resonates. And I'm already thinking of social media clips that it's really going to drive the representation. You being a Latina, and I've always heard that accents are looked down, or the individuals that have accents feel that it's a
Mhm.
crutch and it affects their ability to navigate the business
Mhm.
world. But
Yeah.
it's about
Yeah.
being your authentic self and pushing away that negativity. Just like what you said about your own skill sets and changing when you're looking at the job description. Hey, I think I could do this. I could do that. And it's just changing your own personal kind of paradigm on what you think you're capable of doing or what is holding you back. We tend to be our
Yeah,
harshest
we
critics,
are. We are. Definitely. I
right?
agree with you. And especially when you few years back, for me, the accent was something that I was always scared of. Well, in general, before the one of the reasons why I went into communications was because I was a really shy person. Even ordering something for me was a challenge. Like ordering coffee was a challenge. And I knew that in order for me to do anything in the world, I needed to come out of that shell where I was just keeping it to myself. I taught communications, public speaking to first year
Yeah.
students. And I see them, I see how nervous they get when they have to do that speech. And I understand because that was me a few years back. But being able to
Yeah.
master that and to dominate that part of myself, it's not that I don't get scared anymore. It's just I got used to feeling not at my best, but guess what? If I have to say it, if I have to speak up for myself, and this is what I need, then I have to do it. And in my website, I actually have a quote that I wanted to read to you from Audre Lorde. And it says, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid." I took that to my heart because it was like, I'm so scared of doing everything. I don't want to speak up. I don't
Mm.
want to go to that networking event. I don't want to do X. But you know what? The calling that you have, that passion that you have for yourself is it's not going to go away, and you have to overcome that fear. At the end of the day, I'd rather be wrong by doing what I wanted to do. I may fail, my company may fail, and there's a lot of pressure that I have. I know statistically, most new companies fail within the first 5 years. In order to beat the odds that my company will be part of it, it's not easy, but I'm trying. This is not the first time that I actually become an entrepreneur or try to become an entrepreneur. I tried this in the past, but I think the difference this time is that I didn't want to do it alone. I knew that the challenges that I am trying to solve, or the problem that I'm trying to solve, is bigger than me, is bigger than many of us. And the smartest, brilliant minds right now are all coming together trying to fix it. And I'm just one person, right? So I'm not putting myself out there like, oh, I have the solutions. I don't, but I know that my voice is needed in this process. I wanted to bring other people on board with me. I have a lot of people to be accountable for. I think that's also one of the drivers that kept me moving forward, because at the end of the day, when I think about the challenges that I'm trying to solve, you get depressed. You can easily get depressed and discouraged because it's too much. And regardless of what's going to happen, I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best. And that's all we can do. Try our best. And hopefully it will work out.
Everything you said, Eliza, resonates with me. I just love your energy, your commitment, and just your enthusiasm to make a difference. And everybody can make a difference. It could just be one little step. It could be looking to the left or right of you and affecting them and say, hey, we need to do this. And when more people start talking, it's going to get bigger and bigger. So you're just doing amazing work there. But I want to talk about impact driven business. What is the mission? What is the vision? And what are the services that you can?
So, just to give you a preview of the company, it's a communications, sustainability, and business strategy consulting agency. Pretty much what we do is educate consumers, educate the community, and especially help small businesses become more sustainable. We want them to think about sustainability not as a strategy, not as a marketing strategy to greenwash. We want them to actually understand how they can accelerate their influence and social environment by creating business models that are integrating that sustainability, that are not only thinking about how you can make profit, but how you can also uplift their communities, contribute positively to the planet. Some of the services that we have is business innovation and consulting, sustainability reporting, climate change and sustainability. We also assist in all of the startup business planning development, industry market segmentation, digital strategy, communication strategy, social media strategy. And the last part of the services is people and workforce. And there is a disconnect sometimes about environmental and social, and it's important for businesses to understand that even if you're doing everything right in terms of the environment and how changing your business to be more eco-friendly, if you're not doing the same thing in your social dimension of your business, you're still not going to be a sustainable organization. So we want to also to empower these small businesses in terms of organizational change management, employee experience. We're talking about DEI strategy, and all of those different strategies that businesses can use to make sure that they are holistically looking at their business operation.
Just hearing all of the different great services that the company provides, it hits on all your expertise, right? Change management, sustainability, communication. You're definitely using your strength to be that driving force for the company. I'm an advisor for your company. Super humbled to be a part of this. It's only getting started, right? It's only going to get bigger. All of us need to be concerned about sustainability, and maybe not for us, but our children and our great grandchildren. We want to make sure we leave the world a better place for them. That's what it's all about, right? The company is primarily based out of California. Are you only looking in California as maybe phase one, or do you plan to expand in different states, or even, I'm probably adding more stress, outside of the US?
Primarily the Bay Area, which is where we are in California. But honestly, the team that we have is a global team. We actually have 5 people already working with us in Argentina. We are actually expanding to reach out to the Caribbean because we think that the Caribbean is one of the most impacted area when it comes to climate change. And the fact that I lived in the Caribbean for more than 10 years and then have a lot of connections there, I wanted to bring those services to the Caribbean also. Since the beginning, we've been more like global scale because of the importance of what we are doing. I don't think that we will be doing justice if we just focus on only one small segment of the population here. So I think this has the potential to scale, but of course we want to be mindful of where we are at the moment in terms of resources and all of that. We are building the foundation in order to be able to scale the organization when the time comes.
That definitely makes sense. I'm going to pivot a little bit. I know we have a couple of more topics that we want to discuss, but I just wanted to, and I think you already mentioned it, the discrimination that you've
Mhm.
experienced in different work roles. But what has been some of the challenges in your career that you experienced? And one, how did you solve them? And two, what has been the wins as well? Because we don't want, the last thing I want to do is create this
Mhm.
victimology, right? Because I don't think it's that, but we need to acknowledge when there is
Mhm.
microaggressions, when there is discrimination.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up because actually, when I did my thesis for my master's in communications, I focused on microaggression in the workplace. That was a key point for me, especially because I was, as a Latina, like I mentioned before, I experienced that firsthand. It was a comment that seems benign, that you did not actually mean to upset that other person. When it's so repetitive for the person receiving the comment, it's not a small innocent comment. It becomes a stressful situation. People get depressed. I actually leave places where I just didn't feel like this is not where I want to be. Those are the challenges. Of course, I have received that perspective of being in the workplace as a Latino minority, accented English speakers, all of that. I mean, it's part of what it is. So we have to have a way of managing those situations and make sure that we understand that there's nothing wrong with us, but it's the system. And one of the things that always came to my mind was this imposter syndrome, right? So they want to make it sound like, oh, there's nothing wrong with the system. It's you who have this new environment for you. It's so challenging. You don't think that you are fit for the role. And I disagree with that a lot. It's not that I feel that I'm not capable. It's that the structure, the way that you are designing this organization, isolating me, or it's putting me on a box. And I cannot be my best if I am expected to behave a certain way, or if I'm expected to act a certain way, especially for immigrant who we have been socialized different. And when you come to the United States, is that, hey, wait a minute, you have to act this way, or you will be passed on a promotion, or you will not be invited to the after hours events in the workplace because you're just not socialized. And you have to put this mask in where you become what they want you to be. And then for how long can you do that? I have an experience where somebody asked me, why don't you get coaching for your accent? And I'm like, are you understanding what I'm saying? Yeah, but wouldn't you want to have it better? And I'm like, I don't need to have to put on that extra burden on myself every single day when I go to work because that will be exhausting. You cannot be productive and everything you're expected to do when on top of that you have to pretend an accent and you have to pretend a behavior that is expected. It's like, how much can you do? But at the end of the day, one of the coping strategies for me was just really understanding the system. I need to understand how it works in order to play well if you are to succeed. And it's sad to see that a lot of companies are cutting their budget when it comes to DAI and all of that, but this is actually needed. You won't be able to have everyone contributed in your company in the best way possible if you are not looking at how to meet the different needs of each one of your employees. For me, navigating that was more about educating myself and aware of my own, my own weaknesses. It's about being yourself. This is the best I can come up with, and it should be enough. And if it's not enough, then this is not the right place for me.
Or it's not your problem, but it's the other person's
Right,
problem,
right,
right?
right. Like, it's not for me to change myself to please someone else, to make you feel
Yeah.
comfortable. If you don't understand my accent, then you have a problem because I
Yeah.
understand yours.
I really like the viewpoint for imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Please correct me if I'm misinterpreting what you said, that the imposter syndrome is like the culture putting the blame not on themselves, company culture, but on the
Yeah.
individual. Well, it's
If you
you
has a
and not
you have an issue,
you
you
have.
have a trust issue, a confidence issue. But guess what? I never had it before.
Yeah,
Right?
no.
So I think that maybe there's a lot of body of knowledge on imposter syndrome, but what I'm thinking they're missing the point is that if they haven't talked to people who did not feel like that in another country when they were also working, then probably something is missing in there.
Or what's the new factor introduced
Exactly,
to the
right?
environment, right? It's not
Yeah.
us. I think there is new terminology. I reach out to a lot of people on LinkedIn, and I think somebody who talked about imposter syndrome, that it's not necessarily a syndrome, but it's imposter
Mm.
phenomena is what they're rephrasing
Mhm.
it there. So actually, I hope I'm able to get her on the show in the future. So, Eliza, this has been an amazing conversation. I just learn every time we talk, I always learn new things. I love your positivity, your energy. The way I close my podcast with all the guests is books. I love books. I'm in the middle of 15 books, which is crazy.
Yeah, I know. I'm in the same place. So, my book, the one that I wanted to bring this time, is The Big Pivot. And it is from Andrews Winston. And it's a radically practical strategies for a hotter, scarcer, and more open world. So one of the quotes that I can just highlight from this book, I have many, but I just wanted to highlight one. We can't know how everything will play out in the future, but we can work hard to build a better today. So should we make the big pivot because it's profitable, or because we will sleep better, or because we will ensure a better future for all? The answer is yes.
I like that. I'll definitely make sure to put that in the show notes along with impact driven business, where everybody can find all the great work that your company's doing, you and everybody involved, and all the social media links as well.
One thing that I wanted to tell when we were talking about the entrepreneur part and how everything I have done previously matches like almost every single one of the services that the
Yeah.
company is providing. I thought of Steve Jobs' quote where he said that you can only connect the dots looking back. So when I
Mm.
look at all of the stuff that I have gone through, why all of this happened, or why did I take that course and that and whatever, only now that I look back, I can see the value of everything that I did. Like I can just put all of those things, all of those capabilities, all of those skill sets that I developed throughout many years, and now I'm using
Yeah.
it to push this organization. So I think it's important to see that, to be able to get that moment of reflection and look at what happened in the past and how that ended up making who you are now, and how can you use those. We start with experience, so this is why this time
Right.
you're more prepared, you're more, if it didn't work in the past, it doesn't matter, you have changed, you have grown, and maybe this is the right time.
I really love acknowledging the past and acknowledging the good that you've done, and also learning from the bad things that have happened, whether you've done them intentionally
Mhm.
or what has happened through companies, through people, interactions, etc. I think that's definitely a powerful message
Mhm.
to end this episode, Eliza. Again, thank you for being on the show. Gracias, and hope to talk soon.
Thank you so much again for inviting me. It was a pleasure to have these conversations with you as always. And I'm looking forward to hearing more podcasts and keep bringing people here because those voices, we need to hear them.